in chat has the same opinion that Naka trying to game the clock to burn the match down. I agree with that. We'll see what happens, of course, but I do believe that Wesley's big chance has to be in the 5-minute portion. But let's see, we've still got over an hour left on that, so lots of games. And interesting, so the knight is developed from a3 this time, Peter. It can always come into the game from c2 and then go to e3 as well, or through c4.
Well, actually, I have the feeling, and look at this a5, that's exactly what I meant, that black should include a5, and Hikaru did something different, and Wesley got the dream setup. Now look at this, black saved the move h6, because usually you play the move h6 because you are afraid of bishop g5, but now that the white knight was forced to e3 earlier, black saved the time and black equalizes, and maybe actually Hikaru felt like, you know, I want to see how Wesley reacts to the line which he has just played against me, and got some kind of an initiative. Actually, I saw that it was a very interesting psychological moment, just to see how your opponent reacts to the line with which he posed some problem. On the other hand, if Wesley had prepared this line seriously from the white side, he definitely knows it also how to handle it from the black side.
And queen d7 offering a queen trade. White has to keep the queens on to keep the game going, and I'm wondering if queen g4 can be an option here to try and insist on that. But of course, he's gone for it. He wants to trade these queens. I think queen e3 is just a very uncomfortable move to make, Peter. You don't want to place that queen in front of your bishop, stopping its development. I do not see a way for white to escape the trade of queens.
Yeah, usually I would say that it's not such a big problem for white to change the queens if you have the two bishops, but the point is that black's pawn on a4 is very, very powerful. And basically, it stops white from activating the bishop via b3, so white cannot really put pressure on black's central pawns. And black is not in any hurry to capture on e4. So basically, this compensates for the loss of the two bishops. And yeah, Hikaru finally goes queen e3. Look at this. He believes that, yeah, if I want to get something out of this game, I have to keep the queens on the board, but it's also risky.
Very interesting choice by Hikaru to move queen e3. My problem with this move was that now white has to waste a little more time in completing the development. But like you said, Peter, it's what Hikaru believes his chances are better with the two bishops to keep the queen on. He pushes the queen away, and perhaps after the queen falls back, Hikaru could move back to queen f3 and then take out the bishop.
Yeah, I mean, for example, queen f3 looks like a very natural move. Then maybe bishop g5 is kind of a threat. If that's a threat, then black can simply play the move h6. If he wants, I'm actually... and Hikaru goes queen g3, not allowing any h6.
That's a nice point, that queen f3 perhaps allowed h6, and he stopped that because now h6 is met by... But it's still not met by bishop h6, Peter, because you've got knight h5 in that position.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a blitz game. So basically, when your opponent signals that, aha, with queen g3 I stop h6, then your brain just stops, and
right.
And you don't want to fall into the trap. You don't even want to consider that. And Wesley played the move rook d7. It's just a kind of waiting move, also getting out of the eventual pin with bishop g5. I also feel that black will need somewhere the move b7 b5 to protect the a4 pawn, because he really wants to maybe bring the rook from a8 to d8. On the other hand, rook on a8 is perfectly fine. One big strategical question in this position: will black ever play the move d5, d4? That's kind of a, yeah, he first goes b5, and now I believe that something like d5, d4 is maybe an idea for black.
Always in the air, and I think it's also important that white can never go bishop h6, hitting that pawn on g7, because black does have the idea of knight h5. So instead, he's gone bishop to g5, developing that bishop and eyeing that knight on f6. The d4 possibility is in the air. He hits it with h6, and I think this is the idea that we were talking about, that the pawn on h6 doesn't hang, Peter, and you can show why.
Yeah. Knight h5, but you know, at some point now with the rook on d7, I might have something like queen g4.
That is true. That is a very nice point, actually. And with the rook on d7, you can't take queen h6 because the rook hangs on d7. So you perhaps have to trade queens. He's gone bishop d2. He did not like knight f6 hitting the pawn on g4 next, so he's kept the two bishops. And Peter, your idea of playing d4. Why did you like d4 so much? What is the advantage of getting this this move in?
Well, I mean, the point is that if black gets something like bishop b6, and then even, okay, the pawn on a5 will keep, but, okay, Wesley goes king h8, I don't believe that that was necessary. On the other hand, very human, very natural. I mean, okay, you can never forever calculate bishop takes h6, because in a blitz game, it will always take time from you. So Wesley says, okay, let me remove this king. Anyway, white doesn't really have much to do, and white goes a3. He just wants to fix the queen side. Wesley goes bishop a5, continuing putting pressure. I mean, you see the point that the bishop on c2 is quite dead. This bishop on d2 has to guard the c3 pawn, but white structure is kind of limited. Yeah, rook d1 played. I mean, white is on the defensive now.
I really like black's position, and black could continue to steamroll those pawns with a move like c5 as well now. He's got everything under control, the big space advantage. He's killed the double bishops that white has. He's gone bishop b6, eyeing this pawn on f2 in certain positions. Also moving away from white's idea of perhaps taking on d4, because that bishop on d2 was defended after rook d1, and he goes queen f3.
Exactly. I mean, there was just very quickly, let me show a very nice line that I spotted, that if black plays the move c5, white can maybe capture on d4, because bishop takes d2 runs into d4, d5 intermediate move, very important. So after c takes d4, if you take rook takes d4, then I have bishop e3 hitting the rook, and pawn on c5 will be weak. And if you capture cd4, then I can take on a5, rook a5, and play something like bishop b1, get bishop to a2, rook ac1, and suddenly white gets perfect harmony with the bishop on a2. I just wanted to highlight this because strategically it was quite important.
I love this plan of bishop b1, bishop a2 to improve this dead bishop on c2. You want it on that a2 g8 diagonal, and I think we're going to see this plan by Hikaru for sure very soon. And I think rook d8, again, a nice move. You see that d3 pawn is weak. You want to go queen d7 if the bishop from c2 moves away. So he's keeping the pressure on that. He trades off the bishop on d4.
Yeah, this is exactly the strategical risk what I have been talking about, why I felt that this whole stuff is very risky for white, and I'm not liking it, and d5, d4 is always a strategical idea. Look at this. Black got a wonderful knight against this very passive bishop. I mean, black is in total control. Wesley has 2 minutes on the clock. I think this is quite enough time to use this position, because all these c5, c4 ideas are there. I think that white is actually strategically lost, so he needs some tactical miracle to survive. But how?
Hikaru always shows us the tactical miracles that are possible on the board. It does look like a difficult position, but we've seen Wesley in very strong positions with big advantage. When he falls short on the clock, he somehow messes it up. It's going to be interesting to see if he's able to convert this time. Is rook d1? So rook d1, you still have rook f1, keeping things under control, because otherwise that bishop on b1 was lost. He hits it, but what happens to rook d1 check now, Peter?
Yeah, it just game over, I believe.
Rook d1 picks up the bishop, and there we have it. And there we have it. But Hikaru, the resourceful Hikaru, continues to fight, but this looks bad news.
Yeah,
very
completely.
bad news.
Yeah, and Hikaru designs, because not only a piece, but it's the monster piece on e5. Wonderful strategy.